The giving has always been easier. I write a check, I work the whale, I give some stuff. Giving is not so strange. But I've been thinking about giving in an entirely new way these days, since August, actually. Because since August, I've been praying something called the Prayer of Jabez. Jabez in the prayer is found buried in 1 Chronicles. The first few chapters of 1 Chronicles, 1 through 3, boring. It's a historical lineage. Whose son is whose son, whose son, boring. And you get to chapter 4, verse 9, and you read, "Now Jabez was more honorable than his brothers." And then in verse 10, you read the prayer of Jabez. And it's 4 phrases, 4 simple phrases. "O Lord, bless me indeed. Enlarge my territory. Keep your hand upon me. And keep me from evil so that I may not cause harm." And then we read, "And the Lord granted him his request." Now, some of you may have heard this prayer before. There was a book that came out a number of years ago called The Prayer of Jabez, written by an author named Bruce Wilkinson. And back then, there was a lot of controversy over this book. There were a lot of critics because they said it promoted prosperity theology. And I can understand the criticism because before, when I prayed the Prayer of Jabez, when that little book first came out, this is the way I prayed it. "Lord, bless me. Lord, bless me. Enlarge my territory and give me a bigger house." And God took one look at my heart and he said, "No." So I stopped praying the Prayer of Jabez because obviously it didn't work. Of course it didn't work. I was working an angle with God. But it sat dormant, the little book and the prayer, for years. And then in August of this year, I found another book by the same author, Bruce Wilkinson. It was called Beyond Jabez. And in it, he specifically addressed those critics that said that his first book promoted prosperity theology. He did a better job of explaining it. He was misunderstood before, he said, and he did a better job in this book of explaining what he really meant. So I read Beyond Jabez, and I understood. And on August 7th, I started praying the Prayer of Jabez again. But this time, I prayed, "Lord, bless me with wisdom. Bless me with discernment. Bless me with compassion and empathy and kindness. And Lord, enlarge my territory. Allow me to accomplish more for you. Take me to people who need your help and bring people to me so that I may help them in your name. Lord, enlarge my territory, enlarge my circle of influence so that I can serve for your glory." It's a very different prayer when you pray it like that. So I also wrote on August 7th, "Lord, I'm not sure if I'm prepared to receive." I had no idea. Because the Lord has done immeasurably more than I could possibly have asked or imagined. Let me give you some background. I know about undependable cars. I do not need Adam and Jamie from the Mythbusters to prove that it's plausible to drive from downtown Orlando to East Orlando with a strip of pantyhose functioning as a fan belt in a 1973 Buick Century. I already know it works. I know the feeling of getting behind the wheel of a car and putting the key in the ignition and praying, "Lord, please let it start this time." My father and I were so good at towing each other's 1970 and 1971 Mustangs that he made me a license plate that said J&B Towing. His name is Bill. I'm Julie, if you missed it. And I know how to scrape a hardened, crusty gasket off the head of a 302 engine. My father and I disagreed to this day about whether I wanted to do that. He said I thought it was a learning experience, and I asked him. Seriously, did not ask him. But I know about undependable cars. I remember this. So you fast forward all the way up to Thursday, September 17th. And I hear that Curtis has been stranded at Taco Bell with his kids because his car overheated. Took me right back to the problem car times in my life. So Friday morning I get up and I'm in my prayer journal. Among other things, I write 3 things. I write, "Lord, if there's a way for me to help the Froislings get a dependable vehicle, please show me how. And I wrote, even if it's my van, Lord. And then I wrote, I don't know where this prayer is coming from, God, but I'm praying it anyway. Because I had no idea why I was praying this prayer, but God did. Romans 8:26 tells us that the Holy Spirit intercedes for us on our behalf when we don't know what to pray for. And I believe with all my heart that the Holy Spirit led me to pray that prayer that morning. Because less than 8 hours later, my husband, who never drives in my van, was rear-ended in my 2000 Honda Odyssey on the turnpike. And we never drive on the turnpike. And I thought, God, this isn't exactly what I had in mind. I had no idea what he was doing in Flux, that place I hate. But God knew. By Tuesday, it was toxic Flux. I was cranky, I was in a bad mood, and I was complaining. I told my husband, we do not have money for a car payment, we're fixing the van, and we're keeping it. And if the insurance company totals the van, then I'm just going to go out and get a 2000 Honda Odyssey because I know where all the buttons are. Because I hate change. And my husband says, this is exactly what you prayed for. Thanks a lot, honey, for reminding me. So by Thursday, I had a monumental headache. But if I look at my prayer journal for that day, I wrote, Lord, please continue to bless me, even though it confuses me. Friday morning, the insurance company called. We regret to inform you that we've decided to declare your vehicle a total loss. Well, now I have no idea. How am I supposed to give away a van that doesn't even belong to me anymore? Because that's what happened. When the insurance company totals your van, they're saying, it belongs to us. They wanted to arrange pickup. They were going to sell it at an auction for parts. It wasn't my van anymore. And I'm right back to, okay, Lord, show me how. Because if this really is from you, the van doesn't belong to me anymore. I have no way to give it to anybody. Long story short, through the amazing joint efforts of so many people, I was able to figure out the right questions to ask and get the right answers. And the bottom line was, they let me keep that van. I didn't have to pay the $800 retention fee, and I got a title that was transferable, and they let me have a check so that I could use it towards the purchase of another vehicle for myself. Other people assisted with the repair of the first van. There are so many people that got involved in that. But I go back to that morning, that Friday morning when the insurance company called and they said, we need to pick up that van. What if I had said, okay, come get it? Maybe you've seen Field of Dreams, the movie Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. Main character is Ray Kinsella, and he's talking to a character in the movie named Moonlight Graham. Moonlight Graham played baseball, Major League Baseball, one half of one inning in one Major League Baseball game before being sent back down to the minors. And as Moonlight was talking about that experience, he said, you know, we rarely recognize the significant moments in our life when they're actually happening. We always think there'll be another day. And he said, I didn't realize that was the only day. And I realized that Friday morning when the insurance company said, we want to come pick up your van, that was that moment. I had a moment to serve, or I had a moment to say, okay. I could have said, come and get it. But instead, not knowing what God was going to do, not knowing how he was going to do it, I said, that doesn't work for me. So I got to give away my van, but here I'm in Flux again. I don't have a car.